I want to thank you so much for having me here today. I hope that I can meet the hype that's been presented here just a few minutes ago about me. I want to talk to you today about using words and actions of doubt and discouragement to inspire success. So I'll start with a little bit of background about myself. Married to Mike Valdez. He's here today. We've been married about 3.5 years, and he's my best friend. And I love that I get to live vicariously through him. He's a criminal defense attorney. I love criminal law, never practiced it in my life, never had it on my bench, but I just gravitate towards that. So when he's preparing for trial, I get to help him do all that, and I enjoy spending time with my husband. I'm the proud mother of 4 sons, 4 grown sons. My oldest son is an amateur golfer, and he works in the medical field. He just qualified for the USGA Mid-Am up in Wisconsin. So Brock will be there in September. So fingers crossed and prayers for him. My second son is Caleb. He is Airman First Class in the United States Air Force. Right now he's in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, studying for his emergency management job. The end of November, he and his wife and his 2 children are headed to Anchorage, Alaska for his duty station. It's called Out of Country. So he's excited about that. My third son is Connor Overstreet. He is private first class in the United States Army. He's an artillery specialist. Right now, he's at Fort Carson, Colorado Springs. He is in heaven. That is exactly where he wanted to be. My baby is private first class, United States Marine Corps. And I knew I'd get and he is aircrew chief, so he's going to be training. He just finished his SEER school, so you all might know what that is. It's terrifying for a mother because it's POW camp, basically training them if they were captured. So he signed a non-disclosure. Everything's classified. I don't know anything, nor do I want to know anything what they did to my baby. But he is in New River, North Carolina, and he is training for CH-53s, so on helicopters. So he's all excited. So with that, I know that the Department of Defense owes me a very great thank you, ma'am, for giving us 3 of your sons to join the military. I am blessed with 2 daughters in love who have given me 4 amazing grandchildren. I have 3 grandsons and 1 granddaughter, and yes, she's very spoiled. So I did not have a girl of my own. So on my way of creating my beautiful family, I went back to school. I had 2 sons before I went back to my undergraduate degree. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Spanish from Lamar University, and I had one of my sons while I was in undergrad. I recall taking a Spanish exam, and at that point, I was writing in Spanish and very, very fluent in Spanish. And I remember I was maybe 4 weeks out from delivery. I handed my paper, and my Spanish professor started speaking to me in Spanish. And I started crying, and I said, "I don't know what you're saying to me." And she said, "Oh, you have pregnancy brain. It's okay. You get a pass on this one." Being an older than average student, because I was older than then at that time, I wasn't a traditional student going back to school. I had always had an aspiration of being a career woman. When my sister and I were little, we played, I guess you play make-believe life and such. So she was a mom and she had babies and such. I had a briefcase. I wanted to be a career woman. I wanted a child too, but she was my babysitter. And so I would do my time with the baby. And then of course, I was off jet setting somewhere. And I recall, I wasn't a stellar student. I was an average student in school. And I recall having a conversation with my mother about becoming a lawyer. And God bless my mother. She had a totally different upbringing and not much family support, raised by her grandparents. And she said that I should consider being a secretary. I could succeed at being a secretary because that's kind of what women do. And that took me aback. I was like, no, I'm a woman. I want to be a lawyer. So life happens, things happen, choices are made. maybe not the best choices, but the choices that you make. The Lord blessed me along the way, gave me an opportunity to go to take some paralegal courses at night. With that, I formed some friendships, and I ended up getting a job at Provost Humphrey. It's a large law firm in Beaumont, Texas, specialized in asbestos and silica litigation. So I had to get my foot in the door with that. I was a secretary's secretary. I couldn't go to the top. I didn't really have all of the training that was necessary. So I was basically a file clerk. One of the questions when I interviewed was, you know WordPerfect, that's right. Oh, sure, I know WordPerfect. I didn't know WordPerfect. But I learned WordPerfect. I had the determination that I wanted this to be to law school. I didn't know when I was going to get to go to law school, but that was my aspiration. That was my end game. And so at lunch, I would work through every lunch. I bought a WordPerfect book, and I taught myself WordPerfect so that I could become proficient at it. I impressed some people along the way, and when an opening came up for one of the partners for legal secretary, they completely recommended me. So I was asked to work for Nick Pomerosi. He was by far the most amazing boss that you could have. He was inspirational. He took lots of vacations. So I was doing a lot of meetings with clients and discovery and things like that. And I remember he was going on 15th vacation, and I said to him, I said, you know I could do your job. And he goes, I know that you do a lot of my job so I can go on vacation. And I said something, I was like, you know, I've always wanted to be a lawyer, but I'm old. And I can think at this point in time I was 26 or something like that. and he looked at me, he said, you're not too old. And I said, well, by the time I get my undergraduate degree, which is a 4-year degree, and law school 7 years, and I'm like calculating in my head, I said, well, I'll be 32 years old when I graduate from law school. And mind you, that's kind of old when you're in your 20s. Not now at all, but then it was. And Mr. Pomerosi, this is words of inspiration to me, because along the line of the doubts that I had and the words of discouragement, I had sprinkles of encouragement. And it's those sprinkles of encouragement that made me think, I can do this, I can do this. And he looked at me and he said, Scharlene, he said, you're going to be 32 anyway. Why not be? Because you would be a very good lawyer. And that resonated with me. And of course, things happen, life, marriage. My former husband actually went to law school, so we found ourselves in Michigan. He did 1 year of law school. He worked in the oil field and wanted to have another profession where he could be home and such. Well, while he was in school, I was working at a law firm in Lansing, Michigan. I was working at night. I did the 5 to 9:30 shift. So it was an international firm. We had 4 stories. We did everything: immigration law, property law, employment law, everything that you could think of, this firm did. And there was a Russian attorney, female attorney, and I would work a lot on their floor. She'd come visit with me, and I would just talk to her about law, and she was like, God, you're so passionate about the law. And I said, I want to be a lawyer, but I just, I'd have to do this and do this. And she was like, I can see, she said, you will be. You will be. You just hang in there because God's got a plan for you. And so I always thought, God's got a plan for me. I'm going to do this one day. Well, I was so interested in the law, I would brief my husband's cases. I would read, he hated property law. George O'Keeffe is one of my favorite artists. And there was a case law about her case in his case book. And I remember I just read that. And I was, don't you see what they're trying to do? And after 1 year, he had no interest in law school and went back to the oil field. And I had taken a few classes at the community college up in Lansing. And again, high school, not the stellar student, not much confidence in myself as a student. But I recall sitting in my English class. It was English 1. You have to write an essay. And so I think Young Goodman Brown was the short story we had to read. So I had to write an essay on that. And I remember sitting in class, we turned our essays in, and I was like, oh, I know I didn't do well on it. We had the Elmos where, he could put the papers up on the screen just like this. And lo and behold, I kind of look up, and I was like, that's my paper. And that in and of itself, after I talked to him, I was like, Professor, that's my paper. And he said, you did a each essay I'd have after that. He was like, he put it up there, and he was like, and she's improving, and she's improving. And I remember there was one young mom, and she was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this. Could you help me on writing an essay? So I had a formula in my mind because I just kind of work like that. I'm a very visual learner, very visual in how I approach things. So I drew her the little, upside down triangle, and I said, this is how you go for your first paragraph, and then here's your theme sentence, and then here's your support paragraphs, and then you do a pyramid, a pyramid at the bottom. And she followed my recommendation, and she did very well. And so I have always felt that when you are through life, you're always reaching back, bringing people up with you. Especially women, we need to do that for one another. And I always have a heart for young mothers trying to advance themselves in life with that. Well, we came back to the Golden Triangle area. I went back to school at Lamar University, not in the paralegal program, but for my undergraduate. And I didn't get a major in. I had taken Spanish 101 in Michigan. I did okay in that. For those that you may not know, when you go, you don't have to have a specific undergrad major. They like a wide variety of students to choose from, and so you can have any major whatsoever. So I thought, I'm going to choose something that I like and that I feel comfortable with. So I started taking another Spanish class, and I liked it. You can ask my husband. My husband is good in Spanish, and I try my best. I've lost some of my fluency from undergraduate through law school, but it just made sense to me, and I loved the professors. It was 2 female professors, and after my first semester, and she knew I was doing this on my own. I had 2 kids at home. My husband was in the oil field. I rarely saw him, just trying to keep everything together. Not very supportive family members. Mom and dad were great, but in-laws, they just didn't really understand why I was going back to school. My father-in-law said to me, do you need your education? Your place is at home for your husband and for your children. Well, that was just like, no, I know that there's a place for me that I can do both, and I can be successful at both. So I trudged through, and one of the head of the Spanish department came up to me and said, Scharlene, I know you're going to, right? She goes, what is your major? I said, I think business. And she said, oh, don't do business. And she said, if I gave you, she goes, I have money. I have scholarship money. I need a female Spanish major to give $1,200 a year to. Well, she said, all I need you to do is change your major. Where do I sign? Let's go do this now, because I wanted that money. We were not the best of times in the oil field. Loans took care of some of the daycare expenses that we had. But when she offered me that, I knew that this was where I'm supposed to be, where I'm supposed to go. And lo and behold, Lamar University had a presidential scholarship program with Texas Tech School of Law. And I heard about it just in passing, and then I started researching. And then I researched who was over that scholarship. Well, I made that professor one of my friends. I would pop in, I would say hello. I took this law from her so she would know who I am and knew me as a student. And I recall bringing another classmate, another young female student that I had, I think it was English, feminism English, or English for some kind of women class or something, women's literature or something. She told me, and she shared with me her dreams of going to law school as well, and she wanted to go to Texas Tech, and she was interested in the scholarship. I marched her down with me, And Dr. Mulvaney told me, she said, well, we have 2 scholarships, but you know she's going to be in competition with you. And I said, I don't care. I said, that's good. That's healthy competition. Because now I told Dr. Mulvaney, I said, get your scholarships. And I had to, along the journal a lot and encourage myself a lot because I wasn't getting like, you've got this, you can do this. So I had to be my own cheerleader and I had to inspire myself. One Bible verse quote that I always had on my mirror is, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. And I've had that along to my children too as well. My oldest son was a baseball player. On his little baseball cap, he had the scripture written. And it just, I just feel for my children and as a mother to teach them success, that they can do all things. They can do all things that they set their mind to. So I had my 3rd son in my 2nd year of undergraduate, and I asked her off. My husband at the time, it was in August and 97, and the oil field was down, and if you got a rig, you stayed with your rig. You didn't want to step off your rig. So he left 2 weeks after Connor was born, and we didn't see him until April of 98. So we, all the boys and I did together to do this. I mean, he financially supported us. Never understood why I was doing what I was doing. I was making my life harder for myself, and that was, what he told me. I never said don't, but just wasn't the inspirational person that I needed. And I get to my last semester of undergrad. It's fall of 99. And now I'm ready I've done everything that I needed to do. I bought this book, and it's how to get into law school. And it was just this checklist. And it was like, you need to be a stellar. Well, at that time I was, Dean's List. I was majoring in Spanish with a minor in English. Yes, I've got that. And then you need a community person. I was a community person. I was in the Little League. I taught catechism at our Catholic church. I volunteered, so I had that. So I made myself what this book said, that I needed to guarantee myself to get into law school. So I'm studying for the LSAT the whole summer. I get ready to take the LSAT. I'm in the LSAT, and I started getting ill. And I was like, what is going on? And I turned my test in, I got sick, came back. So the next day, I took my youngest one to the doctor. The doctor was a good friend of ours. We went to church together. He was a deacon in our church. And he said, Scharlene, how did that LSAT go? Weren't you taking that? I was like, oh, Chris, you're not going to believe this. I was sick through the whole thing. And he turned his head to me and he goes, you were sick through the whole thing? And I said, yeah, my test anxiety was so high. I was just so sick. He said, let's do a blood test real quick. And he goes, I bet you're expecting. I was like, oh, no, that couldn't happen. And it did. Sure enough, it did. So now I'm like, oh my goodness. So I'm calculating the date. So my young was going to be born in May of 2000. I wanted to start school in fall of 2000. You've done a lot, Scharlene. You've done a lot. You can do this. So I tell my husband we're expecting our fourth. Flat out tells me, well, you're not going to law school. And I said, no, I can make this work. He said, no, you're not going to go to law school. And so we kind of had an argument, and then I felt crushed. And I was like, this is what I worked so hard for. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to law school, and I'm going to get that scholarship, and I'm going to figure all this out, and this is all going to happen. So I graduated December of 99. I took the LSAT again, was not ill through it, did decent enough, and applied for the scholarship. So Dr. Mulvaney had told me she was going to decide in February of 2000 the recipients of the scholarship. And so I anxiously awaited at home with a large pregnancy going on because my son was 10 pounds when he was born. So I was quite the size. So She called at the end of February and she said, Scharlene, we now have 3 candidates for the scholarship. And she said, I have to go through a committee and we have to have you come back in. And you have to go through a panel of judges of some sort to decide who the recipients of the scholarship are. And I broke down and I was like, oh, I can't hit another ball. And I said to her, and I did not even realize at the time that I was actually making an argument advocate for myself as if I was in a court of law. And she sat there and listened. And I said, Dr. Mulvaney, with all due respect, if you put me in front of a panel of judges to determine who gets this scholarship, I said, months pregnant. I said, I'm very huge. I said, I can't even get in my keds anymore. I said, my feet are so big. I said, I'm going to be judged as a pregnant woman with her 4th child whose husband is away from home. And how am I going to be worthy of this scholarship? I said, they're going to disregard the fact that I've struggled so hard. And in my major, I have a 3.98. That I was on Dean's list, that I was president of the Spanish Honor Society, that I was involved in older than average OTA students on student council, helping other older than average students at Lamar University find their way back in school. And I said, my dreams and my aspirations, this is what I've worked for. And I said, but I have to tell you, I can't do that to myself because I'm already fragile, being pregnant as I am. And I told her, I said, if you have to put us through a committee, if I have to go through a committee, I respectfully, withdraw my application for the scholarship. I already had a school that had given me a book scholarship, like $500. And so St. Mary's had accepted me. But Texas Tech is where I wanted to be. That was my school. That's where I wanted to be. All right. So, and I knew that that's where I should be. And so we ended, Dr. Mulvaney saying, well, Charlotte, I'll give you a call. I'll give you a call in the next week or so. So, I prayed about it. I cried about it. I thought, this is another roadblock. This is another situation I'm going to find myself in. But I also had that little bit of faith that I was like, you know what? I'm not going to give up on my dream yet. This is where I want to go. I know this is what I'm supposed to do. And she called me. And she said, Scharlene, and I said, yes, ma'am. And she said, congratulations, you are going to Texas Tech School of Law, presidential scholarship recipient. And I started crying, and I said, well, the committee, she said, you know what? I made an executive decision, because if you could argue your case, if you could advocate for yourself the way you did to me on the telephone, she said, you're going to make one great lawyer. And I cried, and he goes, now don't let me down. And I promised her that I wouldn't. I did speak to her. It was probably a few months ago, maybe earlier this year, and told her, hey, I just want to let you know what I've been doing in the last 15 years or so. And told her what I was doing at the time, and she was very, very proud of me. And I told her, I said, I didn't let you down. So to Tech Law. My baby was born in May. I started school in August of 2020. Husband's still in the oil field. So I've got myself, my children up in Texas. We didn't know a soul. But I didn't realize that God was preparing me for sleep deprivation by making me have a baby in May of 2020, starting law school in the fall of 2020. And he was 3 months old. And I was like, I got this. I haven't slept in the last 3 months. What's 9 more months? So that I found my passion. I found my calling. I found what I was supposed to do at Texas Tech School of Law. Became one of the lead articles editors on the Texas Tech Administrative Law Journal. Found my way to Montgomery County. Started out as a CPS prosecutor and found my voice as a litigator too, because I didn't think that I was ever going to public speak because I didn't like public speaking. And I had to argue a protective order case and had pictures to get into evidence. Did not even know the first thing to recall about that. And Judge Hamilton assisted me. And from there, I just took off. And there was an opening in the CPS department, found my voice there, found my passion there. And I have not let any words of doubt or discouragement ever penetrate my ears since I found. And I want you all to just remember that and take that with you. You're going to find moments of despair. You're going to find moments of doubt, self-doubt. There's going to be doubt people put into your lives just by a word they say to you that they don't realize that. But you can't focus on that. You have to take it and turn it into good. And the one thing that I want to leave you with on this is the fact that a smile and a kind word goes a long, long way. You may not know that person needs it. You may not know if you just say hello or nice day, hope you have a nice day. You look fabulous today. You don't know what other people are going through. And when people do that to me, or when people smile to me, I was like, it just is uplifting. It's very uplifting. I am now the new judge for the County Court at Law number 6. That was created last year by our representative, Will Metcalf. I announced last year that I was going to run unopposed in the primary. I'm unopposed in the commissioners appointed me on June 14th to take over this court on Monday. So Monday's my first day as CCL 6 judge. Thank you. Thank you. I feel a special calling to this court because it's the home court for the juvenile cases. My heart is with children. My heart has always been with family. I'm also a dual docket where I hear civil cases up to $250,000. So I'll have a civil docket as well. But I look forward to the opportunity as a public servant to serve you all as citizens of Montgomery County. And I feel like that every rung on the ladder that I started with when my mother said, why don't you be a secretary, has led me where I am today. And every trial and tribulation I have gone through has made me a better person, a better attorney, and a better judge. And I appreciate you all today. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.